For many people, the holiday season is a time of full plates and extra servings, but for many others, there's only a more dramatic reminder about food insecurity and tight budgets. Since the recession starting 10 years ago, the picture has improved overall, but there's still plenty of need for help from organizations such as Project Bread, best known for the annual Walk for Hunger. To bring us up to date is the organization's new president, Erin McAleer. Thank you very much for being with us, Erin.
Thank you, Chris, for having me.
I want to talk about the place we're at right now, 10 years after the start of the recession, and people are saying, well, we don't need hunger relief that much, I guess. So what's the reality?
Yeah, I mean, the reality is that certainly the economy has been improving, but not for everyone. And we are seeing income inequality continue to expand. And so what that means here in Massachusetts is that the cost of living is really high. And I think any of your viewers will recognize that. The cost of housing, the cost of transportation, the cost of childcare, the cost of heat. And so for individuals who are making minimum wage, but I'd also argue individuals that are more middle income, they frankly are just struggling to pay bills. And after you pay your mortgage and your childcare and your transportation to get to work, the expense that often comes last is groceries. And that's why individuals are just struggling to put food on the table.
Well, there's a lot of negative media, maybe from one quarter more than another, about people who get SNAP benefits, abusing them or just not being productive enough to make some money. But, what about the people who are getting these benefits? What do you know about them?
The people who are not getting the benefits?
Who are getting them.
Oh, sorry.
Yes.
Okay, yeah. I mean, first of all, most of them are working, and the individuals who are working, they are still struggling to get by. So they're in jobs that, frankly, are paying the minimum wage, and so they're not able to put food on the table. Some are working 2 or even 3 jobs, and that the total income is still not enough to get by. So I think that's the first misconception that we need to highlight is, in most households, an individual is working and still receiving SNAP. And for those that aren't working, they're children, they're elders, they're individuals with disabilities, and that's why they're not working.
Of course, one of the things you're doing is you're trying to sort of amplify that by doing, I guess, almost like a documentary about the face of hunger in Massachusetts,
right.
Including East Boston. What's that going to look like, you think?
Yeah, so this year was our 50th Walk for Hunger, and as part of it, a lot of folks were saying, what's going on? Why is there still hunger? So we're doing a storytelling campaign. We're profiling 3 communities in Massachusetts: Cape Cod, the rural area north of the Quad, and then, as you said, East Boston. And we're having individuals share their stories in a non-stigmatizing way and just be candid about why they are struggling to put food on the table. And in East Boston, we know that it's often been a community that immigrants have come to achieve the American dream, a high immigrant population, but there's new buildings going up every single day in East Boston, and the cost of living there is increasing, and folks who have lived there for generations are frankly just struggling to afford the new cost of living.
Because what you're also concerned about is not just dire starvation kind of hunger. You're talking about food insecurity. What is that exactly?
Yeah, so on the most simplistic level, it's wondering where your next meal is going to come from, and I would add wondering where your next healthy meal is going to come from. So for us, filling individual bellies with pancakes or non-nutritious food is not solving the problem. We want to make sure everyone has access to affordable and healthy food, and that secondly, they don't have to worry about where that next meal is going to come from. So we focus on the health in addition to hunger.
Well, of course, when you say health, I guess you must be concerned about some serious health issues. Let's say, could it be maybe diabetes or heart disease?
Absolutely, yeah. There are severe negative health outcomes for hunger across populations, for children, for elders, for individuals with disabilities, and so we know that we see an increase around diabetes is certainly one, hypertension, asthma in children. There are a lot of negative health outcomes associated with hunger and food insecurity.
This is BNN News, and we're talking with Erin McAleer from Project Bread. Erin, what you're doing here is you're supporting a lot of organizations that do the actual relief or food access work. And this is not just about food pantries. So what else is going on?
Yeah, so we certainly support food pantries and soup kitchens, but we know, today everyone accesses food in different ways. And so at Project Bread, we don't think there's one single solution. So we invest in a multitude of them. So this year we granted out $1 million from the Walk for Hunger, and we supported the food pantries, the soup kitchens, but also farms that are giving out subsidized CSA shares. We supported, programs like Fresh Truck that are bringing fresh fruits and vegetables to health centers. So a whole wide array, and again, unique solutions to providing healthy food and making them affordable.
And I know even some partnering with nonprofits and government agencies. I know during the summer there were these places where young people could get meals.
Yeah.
Why is that so important?
So for low-income kids, over half of their calories come from school meals. So then when you think about summer, there is obviously a cause for concern. Fortunately, there was a federal program where the food is all paid for by the federal government that provides meals to kids during the summer. So at Project Bread, what we do is work with organizations to set up sites. And we have sites at libraries and housing authorities and schools and parks where kids can go and get free summer meals. And that might be breakfast, that might be snack, that might be dinner. But again, the food is all paid for by the federal government, and it's a great way of addressing childhood hunger during the summer.
One of the things we almost overlook all these years that Project Bread has been around is that you're sort of a multifaceted organization. You're not just focused on one silo. Why is it so important?
I think it's important because hunger is a complex problem and it requires multitude of solutions. And so at Project Bread, we certainly focus on access. There's 1 in 10 individuals who are hungry in our state, but we also know when we look around that there's more than enough food to feed everyone. So we take that systems approach of how do we connect those 1 in 10 with those systems, but that's not enough just to focus on the access. We also do work around policy advocacy. And you mentioned SNAP. Right now we are advocating to ensure that the federal government does not further restrict those benefits, which would mean individuals who are currently eligible becoming ineligible. So we really want to make sure that we're still moving forward and advocating for solutions. And the other 2 strategies I would highlight are that this is an issue that's been with us for a really long time in the United States, but it is a solvable one. So we as an organization believe strongly in education and awareness and citizen engagement and getting more individuals involved in this solution as well.
But by the way, there are proposals in the Trump administration for restricting dependence for people who are trying to become citizens, especially legal residents, permanent residents, and so on. Would that affect food benefits as well?
So yes, I mean, to achieve, SNAP has pretty strict requirements, and to be eligible for SNAP, you have to be a legal immigrant. You have to have your green card. But we are already seeing the impact and just a chilling effect that the Trump proposals. We're finding that immigrant families are just staying away from federal nutrition programs. So even families that are eligible for them are telling us they don't want to apply. They are very nervous about giving over their name and identification to the federal government, and they would prefer to access food in other ways. So these proposals are certainly having a chilling effect in our immigrant communities.
And finally, the documentary that you're working on, those different faces of hunger from around Massachusetts, what's going to be done with that once it's completed?
We will be posting it on social media, sharing it with media partners, sharing it with our supporters. Really the goal is for individuals in our state to understand what hunger, and when I say that, it's your neighbors, it's your family members, it's your colleagues, that most Americans don't have $500 to cover an unexpected expense. So it could be any of us that find themselves in these situations, a leaky roof, a car repair that really sets them back. And so that's what we're trying to convey and get that message out.
Well, another way for people to keep up with this is to follow you on social media or the web. There's a way they can do that?
Absolutely. We've got a handle, Project Bread. We're on Facebook and LinkedIn and Twitter, and then projectbread.org is another great way to and I'd also argue that get involved in the advocacy work as well. We've got an action team that is tracking what's happening both in Washington, D.C. and here in Massachusetts to advocate for these critical programs.
Thank you very much for being with us.
Thank you, Chris.
Erin McAleer from Project Bread.
Fantastic.
In a moment, doing the right thing in a dangerous world, we'll hear about a new spy thriller by a local author. But first, this message.